In a quiet suburban neighborhood, the Johnson family had always embraced the joys of outdoor adventures. Their RV was more than just a vehicle. It was a cherished part of their lifestyle, representing countless weekends spent exploring national parks and creating lifelong memories with friends and family. However, their enjoyment took an unexpected turn when they found themselves at odds with the local homeowner association, or HOA. The HOA had strict regulations regarding parking, particularly for recreational vehicles like the Johnsons. While many residents appreciated these rules for maintaining community aesthetics, the Johnsons felt the policies were overly restrictive and stifled their freedom. They believed that as responsible homeowners, they should be able to park their RV in front of their house, especially when it was not obstructing traffic or creating any hazards. Tensions began to rise when an anonymous complaint was lodged against them, leading to mounting pressure from the HOA to comply with their regulations. The Johnsons were bewildered by the sudden scrutiny and felt targeted by their own neighbors. They had always been good community members, participating in events and helping maintain shared spaces. Unbeknownst to them, this conflict was about to escalate dramatically. The family's RV was towed one afternoon while they were away, leaving them in disbelief and filled with frustration. This incident would not only challenge their understanding of community living, but also reveal deeper issues regarding privacy and authority within their neighborhood. As they set out to retrieve their RV, they would soon discover that the police had been keeping an eye on them, a revelation that would change everything they thought they knew about their community dynamics. It was a typical Saturday morning when the Johnson family realized something was amiss. After a night of packing for a weekend camping trip, they stepped outside, eager to hit the road in their beloved RV. But as they approached the driveway, their excitement quickly turned to confusion and dismay. The space where their RV had been parked was empty. Panic set in as they scanned the street, hoping it had merely been moved for some reason. After a frantic search around the neighborhood, they noticed a towing company truck parked nearby and approached the driver. Their worst fears were confirmed. The RV had been towed due to a complaint made to the HOA about its parking violation. The driver explained that he had received instructions to remove the vehicle because it had allegedly been parked too close to the sidewalk, violating HOA regulations. The Johnsons were filled with frustration and disbelief. They had always made sure to adhere to safety guidelines and felt completely blindsided. Feeling helpless, they rushed to the towing company's lot, where their RV sat, seemingly mocking them in its confinement. The fees for retrieval were steep, adding financial strain to an already emotional situation. As they navigated through this unexpected setback, they couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being unfairly targeted by both the HOA and their neighbors. This incident marked a turning point for the Johnsons, a moment that would not only test their resilience, but also raise questions about fairness and community oversight in their neighborhood. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict involving unexpected surveillance from local authorities. To understand the Johnson family's plight, it's essential to delve into the role of the homeowner association, or HOA, within their community. Established to uphold property values and maintain neighborhood aesthetics, HOAs often implement strict regulations regarding everything from landscaping to vehicle parking. While these rules can foster a sense of order and cohesion, they can also lead to conflicts, especially when residents feel those rules are being enforced too aggressively. In this case, the HOA had a clear set of guidelines regarding where recreational vehicles could be parked. While some residents appreciated these measures as necessary for keeping the neighborhood looking its best, others, like the Johnsons, viewed them as restrictive and overreaching. The Johnsons had always parked their RV responsibly, ensuring it did not block sidewalks or create hazards. Yet, with an anonymous complaint lodged against them, the HOA took swift action to enforce its policies. The HOA's board members often acted as gatekeepers of community standards, relying on reports from neighbors to identify violations. This system created an environment ripe for misunderstandings and mistrust. Many residents felt compelled to monitor one another rather than engage in open dialogue. The Johnsons couldn't help but feel targeted. They believed their RV was simply a symbol of their family's love for adventure, yet it had become a point of contention among neighbors. As the Johnsons navigated this conflict, they began to question not only the fairness of the HOA's enforcement practices, but also the overall culture of surveillance that had developed within their once friendly community. This situation highlighted a growing divide between maintaining community standards and respecting individual freedoms, an issue that would soon spiral into something much larger than they ever anticipated. As the Johnson family's frustration grew over the towing incident, they began digging deeper into the circumstances surrounding it. During their quest to retrieve their RV, they stumbled upon an unsettling revelation. Local police had been monitoring their neighborhood in connection with the HOA's enforcement of regulations. This discovery sent shockwaves through the family and raised significant questions about privacy and community oversight. Initially, the Johnsons learned of the police involvement through a conversation with a neighbor who had witnessed officers patrolling the area and taking notes on parked vehicles. The neighbor mentioned that police had been alerted to potential violations of HOA rules and were working in tandem with the association to address complaints. This information left the Johnsons bewildered. They had never imagined that their RV, a symbol of family adventure, could attract such scrutiny from law enforcement. The implications of this surveillance were profound. The family felt as though they were being watched, their every move scrutinized by both their neighbors and the authorities. What started as a simple complaint about parking had escalated into an invasive oversight that blurred the lines between community governance and personal freedom. The Johnsons began to question the motivations behind this partnership between the HOA and local police, wondering if it was a necessary measure for maintaining order or an overreach that encroached on their rights as homeowners. Feeling increasingly isolated, they realized this situation mirrored broader societal issues about surveillance and community control. In a place where they once felt safe and welcomed, they now grappled with feelings of vulnerability and distrust. The Johnsons knew they needed to take action, not just for themselves, but for all residents facing similar challenges in their neighborhood. As the Johnsons delved deeper into their predicament, they began exploring the legal and ethical considerations surrounding their situation. The intersection of homeowner association regulations and individual rights raised complex questions about governance and community living. Homeowners often sign agreements that grant HOAs considerable authority over property use, but this power can sometimes lead to disputes, especially when enforcement feels excessive or unjust. The Johnsons learned that while HOAs are designed to maintain property values and community standards, they must also operate within the bounds of local laws. This meant that any enforcement actions, including towing, needed to comply with state regulations regarding property rights and due process. They wondered whether the HOA had followed proper procedures before towing their RV and whether they had the right to contest the decision legally. Ethically, the involvement of local police in enforcing HOA regulations raised further concerns. Many residents believe that police should focus on criminal activity rather than act as enforcers of community rules. The Johnsons grappled with the idea that their neighbors could rely on law enforcement to resolve disputes over parking, an approach that seemed to undermine the spirit of community and open dialogue. Moreover, the Johnsons considered the broader implications of such surveillance on personal freedoms and privacy rights. If residents were being monitored by both neighbors and police for minor infractions, what kind of environment were they fostering? The family recognized that their struggle was emblematic of larger societal issues concerning authority, accountability, and the balance between communal living and individual rights. Through this process, they became determined to advocate not just for themselves, but for fairer practices within their HOA, a quest that would require them to engage in challenging conversations about governance and community values. They knew they had to stand up for what was right and challenge a system that seemed increasingly unbalanced. As news of the Johnsons' towing incident spread through the neighborhood, the community response varied widely. Some residents expressed support for the family, sympathizing with their plight and voicing concerns about the HOA's heavy-handed tactics. These individuals believed in fostering a sense of camaraderie among neighbors rather than allowing regulations to create divisions. They started discussing the importance of open communication within the community and the need to revisit HOA policies that felt overly restrictive. Conversely, other neighbors viewed the Johnsons as irresponsible for not adhering to the HOA's rules. This group argued that regulations were in place for a reason, to maintain property values and ensure a certain aesthetic throughout the neighborhood. They believed that compliance was essential for preserving the community's appeal. Tensions began to rise as residents took sides, leading to heated conversations during neighborhood gatherings. In response to this growing divide, a few proactive residents organized a community meeting to address the issues surrounding the HOA's enforcement practices. The Johnsons were invited to share their experience, and they seized the opportunity to voice their concerns about surveillance and overreach. During this meeting, many attendees expressed their discomfort with how policing had intertwined with community governance, emphasizing that such measures could create an atmosphere of fear rather than unity. The gathering sparked discussions about potential reforms, including revising HOA guidelines and fostering better communication between residents and board members. It became clear that many homeowners shared similar frustrations and felt hesitant to speak up due to fear of retaliation. The Johnsons' situation had unwittingly ignited a movement for change, encouraging residents to advocate for a more balanced relationship between individual rights and community standards. As conversations continued, it became evident that this incident was not just about one family. It was about redefining what it meant to live in harmony within their community while respecting personal freedoms. With emotions still running high following the towing incident, the Johnson family knew they needed to take decisive action to regain control of their situation. First and foremost, they focused on retrieving their RV from the towing company. Armed with information about local laws regarding towing and HOA regulations, they approached the towing company with a sense of determination. They were met with sympathy from the staff, who explained the retrieval process and associated fees. While the financial burden was significant, they were relieved to finally have their RV back. Next, the Johnsons decided it was crucial to confront the HOA directly. They gathered documentation of their previous communications with the association, including any notices related to parking violations. With the support of neighbors who had joined their cause, they planned to attend the upcoming HOA meeting. Their goal was not only to contest the towing incident, but also to advocate for clearer communication and fairer enforcement of rules moving forward. In preparation for the meeting, they sought advice from a local attorney experienced in HOA disputes. The attorney provided valuable insights into their rights as homeowners and helped them formulate a strategy for presenting their case effectively. The Johnsons wanted to raise awareness about the need for transparency in how complaints were handled and emphasized that a sense of community should come before strict enforcement. Additionally, they began gathering signatures from fellow residents who supported their push for reform. This grassroots effort aimed to demonstrate that many in the neighborhood shared their concerns about over-policing and excessive regulations. The Johnsons felt a renewed sense of purpose as they rallied support, transforming their frustrating experience into an opportunity for change that could benefit everyone in the community. They were determined to ensure that no family would have to endure what they had faced, fostering a more understanding neighborhood atmosphere moving forward. As the Johnsons navigated the aftermath of their towing incident, they took time to reflect on what community living meant to them. Initially, they had chosen their neighborhood for its charm and the promise of a supportive environment. They envisioned a place where families could thrive together, sharing both joys and challenges. However, the recent events had forced them to confront a harsher reality, one where rules could sometimes overshadow relationships. The family recognized that while homeowner associations serve important functions in maintaining property values and aesthetics, they can also create an atmosphere of fear and division. The Johnsons had felt this firsthand, as their love for their RV became a point of contention rather than a source of pride. This experience made them acutely aware of the delicate balance between community standards and personal freedoms. In talking with their neighbors, the Johnsons discovered that many residents shared similar feelings of frustration about the HOA's enforcement practices. They realized that fostering open communication and mutual respect was vital for creating a harmonious community. Rather than viewing each other as potential enforcers or rule breakers, they could strive to support one another in upholding shared values. The Johnsons understood that their journey was not just about reclaiming their RV, but also about advocating for a sense of belonging. They began to appreciate the significance of community engagement, recognizing that it was essential for addressing grievances and ensuring everyone felt heard and valued. This newfound perspective inspired them to work collaboratively with their neighbors on initiatives to enhance communication within the HOA, promoting transparency and understanding. Ultimately, The Johnsons emerged from this ordeal with a deeper appreciation for the complexities of community living. They were committed to fostering an environment where differences could be embraced and everyone could feel empowered to contribute positively to their neighborhood. The lessons learned would guide them as they continued to advocate for change, not only for themselves, but for all families in their community. As the Johnsons reflected on their journey, it became clear that their experience had sparked conversations that extended far beyond their own family. They had faced challenges that tested their resilience, but they also discovered the power of community and the importance of standing up for one's rights. Their ordeal with the HOA and the unexpected involvement of local police highlighted critical issues around governance, surveillance, and the balance between community standards and individual freedoms. This story serves as a reminder of the need for open dialogue in every neighborhood. Homeowners should feel empowered to voice their concerns and participate actively in community governance without fear of retribution. The Johnsons envisioned a future where residents could collaborate to create a fair and supportive environment, one where rules are enforced equitably and respectfully, rather than through surveillance and intimidation. As they prepared to advocate for change within their HOA, the Johnsons encouraged others facing similar challenges to take action. Residents should engage with their associations, attend meetings, and bring forth discussions about policies that impact their lives. By fostering an atmosphere of collaboration and understanding, communities can work together to ensure that everyone feels heard and valued. The Johnsons hoped their journey would inspire others to reflect on their own neighborhoods and consider how they can contribute positively to their communities. Whether through organizing meetings, forming committees, or simply having open conversations with neighbors, every resident has a role to play in shaping the kind of environment they want to live in. In closing, the Johnsons urged all homeowners to remember that community is built on mutual respect and understanding. It is essential to advocate for fair practices while also nurturing relationships that foster a sense of belonging. Together, they can create neighborhoods where everyone thrives, not just as individuals, but as a united community.